everyone, to Out of the Box podcast with Dominic and Michaela. We're here today to review The Kid Who Would Be King, made by
Joe Cornish. It was the director of this film. He's back to helm this film about the old school meeting the new school in this epic adventure about magic and whimsy and everything. So this kid, Alex, thinks he's just another nobody until he stumbles upon the mythical sword in the stone, Excalibur.
Oh, yeah.
Now he must unite his friends and his enemies into a band of knights, and together with the legendary wizard Merlin,
The famous Merlin,
they get to take on the wicked enchantress Morgana. With the future at stake, Alex must become the great leader he never dreamed he could be.
I think that one's pretty good. Yeah. Where did you get that one from?
I think IMDb.
IMDb.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty on the nose about it. This movie, to start off, and by the way, this is a non-spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it, don't worry. This movie was really good with its underlying themes. The one of the things that I took away from it was that it really pushed that you can change the world for the better in the future, especially the kids. So if you think you're a nobody, if you think you can't make change, that's not true, because in the future, you're going to be the ones that are going to be able to make the impact.
Yeah, it starts anywhere, with anybody, any age. It was really cool also that this film did that, and it really showed up other films and saying, you know what, maybe it's not all about the adults. Mm-hmm. It's about the kids too. They are our future, as the song would say, and give them a little faith.
Yeah, I definitely loved it about it. And this was a smaller story about a group of kids. As you've seen in the trailers, there's the 4 kids that go on this quest together. And it's really character-driven amongst those 4 kids and Merlin. So it's really, really a smaller movie. It's a bigger impact in this world, but it's a smaller story, so you can focus more on the characters. And those are films that end up being really good, that are more focused on the characters. So right. I really, really like that. And the characters grew throughout the film as well. So they were one thing, started as one thing, and they finished as completely different people and grew their personalities, grew in confidence as well. So it was really, really cool to see that. I really enjoyed that piece of the movie.
Yeah, I think the movie got it right when they didn't dive into too many supporting characters' backstories. I feel like they concentrated on the main kid, Alexander, and his story. They touched base on the other supporting characters, kind of the stuff that they're going through, but it didn't really we're going to just go away from the story right now and talk about Lance. No, they concentrated on what needed to be done and shared their pasts throughout the film. Yeah,
and so this movie is all about King Arthur and the story of King Arthur, but it's a different twist on it. I know we both liked that piece of it. We talked about it right after we saw the film. It's kind of a spin or a sequel.
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be all about rewriting King Arthur and saying, oh, it's a myth, but it's becoming true. No, they're acting as though King Arthur was a real life thing, and then Alexander comes in and we thought he was going to rewrite the story, but it's a totally new take on it. It's a sequel, if you may.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was cool that they kind of left that parallel. So all of these things are happening. It's coincidence about the King Arthur story, but it's also completely different. So that was cool. But the fact that they didn't try to follow it beat for beat, there were some similarities with the King Arthur story, but they didn't try to follow it beat for beat, especially since there's been a lot of King Arthur movies. They haven't exactly turned out well. So that was a good take that they put on this film, that they didn't necessarily have to follow what the King Arthur story is beat by beat.
Yeah. Also, but there's some parts I did not like about it, like how the characters, their names matched exactly of the Knights of the Round Table. I didn't like how the names matched.
I thought that was annoying. That was the connection to...
I thought it was too much of a connection of, oh, by the way, we're introducing these characters, but they're the same names as the names of the Knights of the Round Table, so that's a coincidence.
Yes, of course, there were some similarities for it. However, later in the film, it doesn't necessarily follow what you think it's going to go to. So it still strays away from it and does its own thing with the story. So, yeah, I noticed that too, where some part in the story, they do say, oh, yes, you have the same names as King Arthur's knights do. But, again, they kind of went a little bit different route. So it was still ended up pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked how they went the different route. But like I said, I really didn't like how the names matched too much.
Yeah, I definitely saw this as a family feel-good film going in. That's what the marketing and the trailers showed. But this was actually a really funny story, and it had some serious moments. It actually had some adult themes. I talked about how you can kind of change the world. In this story, the world is kind of parallel to what our real world is, where our leadership isn't very strong. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of disruption around the world.
Global warming.
Yeah, there's a lot of the two sides pulling apart from each other. So all of that was apparent in the film, and they got that right off the bat. One of the first scenes showed that. This is the world that you're living in. So they had those serious tones, something you don't normally see from a kid's movie. So I could appreciate that it wasn't only for kids. This was for adults as well.
I don't know. I could beg to differ. I do feel like it was definitely still a kid, family-friendly, feel-good movie. But it was nice as an adult to see the film as well and see what they've done with it.
Yeah, so in the trailer, it's all about a kid on a quest, but it ends up being much more than that.
It does end up being much more than what the trailer shows, because the trailer could be a little misleading of, I really don't want to see this movie. It's a kid film. And that's what my thought was. I felt like this movie very much compared to The Goonies and Sandlot, a kid adventure film, and it kind of lived up to that. I feel like the kids of this era, and even the adults, would say the kid who would be king might even live up to that. Or people will say it's a copy of it, but it still was very different from the regular kid adventure films, and it stands its own ground.
Yeah, kids just go out on a quest and adventure by themselves without adult supervision. So yeah, just like those movies, Goonies, Sandlot, Stand By Me, they go to find something.
Right.
Yeah.
Get some answers.
Exactly.
On their own, without the help of some adults.
So the cast of these kids were actually pretty good in the acting department as far as kids go. For the lead Alex was played by Louis Ashbourne Serkis, who is Andy Serkis' son. He looks exactly like Andy Serkis. Exactly like him.
Not exactly like him, but the eyes.
The same face. He has the same face. But he was actually really, really good.
But I'm sure he wants to stand on his own, though.
Yeah, but I thought
he doesn't even need to be related. It doesn't need to be said, sorry. Doesn't need to be said that he's Andy Serkis' son. I didn't know. Unless I Googled it, which we saw the last name and found out, oh, this is Andy Serkis' son. He could stand on his own without thinking about his father.
Yeah, I thought he did really, really good with the role. I thought he did great. What did you think about his performance?
I think he did really well. I think out of all the kids, he did the best.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well,
he deserved to be the lead.
One of my favorite characters in this film was Betters, played by Dean Chaumoo. He was really cool. I thought his character was really funny. And
I thought he was cute.
Yeah, it was really cute and he was really funny. And his story arc, I think, was probably the best one in the film.
You thought?
Yeah, his story arc, how he grew from what he was in the beginning to where he is at the end. I think he has the biggest change as a character.
Okay. I see that. I thought he meant story arc as in the story in general. We don't really know much about his backstory, about his parents, about anything. We just knew what he started as and what he came out as.
Yeah, what his personality was and what kind of things that he liked to do, and then how it grew at the end. And
right.
Even one of the things I like about his character is that the things that he liked to do in the beginning were looked at as stupid or childish or nerdy. And at the end, he was actually able to use those as strengths. And he was actually going to be able to become one of the better characters in the story just because of that. So it's about embracing what you are. We also had Tom Taylor as Lance and Rhianna Dorris as Kay, two of the friends that are the enemies that end up joining up in that band of knights, as you see in the trailer.
And that's not a spoiler because you do see it in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And look at their names.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes.
Like we said earlier, their names are two of the Knights of the Round Table from the original King Arthur book or story.
Yes. I know you had a favorite part. I know your favorite part of it.
My favorite. Angus Imrie.
Yeah.
He played young Merlin, and I think, personally, he was the best actor in the film. I would like to see him in more stuff.
That's the hint. That's the hint.
Merlin in this film does a little hand thing to get people to do things that he'd want them to do, like put some sorcery on them. So it was really cute, and Angus did a really good job playing a young Merlin. At first I was like, why would they have a young Merlin? But it made sense in the film, which you'll see in the film if you decide to go see it.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the standouts in the film. He was just hilarious.
And then older Merlin was played by Sir Patrick Stewart. Didn't have much to do with the film, but he did make his appearances, and it is Patrick Stewart. Yeah. So he's always wonderful to see. Mm-hmm.
And then the villain of the film was Morgana, played by Rebecca Ferguson from Mission Impossible Fallout and Greatest Showman. She also had a smaller role.
Didn't have much to do.
Yeah, she was just
some dialogue here, there.
The bad person.
Yeah, the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, but the kids really did rule the world. Even with the acting, they had the most to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what did you think of the visuals in this film?
The visuals, I thought the CGI wasn't too overboard. I feel like they had a line they didn't cross. And especially with this style film of, family-friendly kids, they didn't overwhelm the audience with having everything be CGI. And I worried about that during the fighting scenes, but they did a pretty good job.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that in some parts where they have like the battles with the army of the undead, that the lighting was a little off, that looks a little dark at times, but that's really my only complaint as far as the CGI goes. And I know that a lot of scenes happened at night too, so I could kind of forgive them for that the lighting was just a little off, but that could be it. But overall, it was very palatable as far as the visuals.
Yeah, there was no unnecessary camera movements, little to no unnecessary camera movements, and close-ups. They did a pretty good job of keeping it at a wide angle, close-ups when they needed.
Yeah, I think Joe Cornish did a really good job of bringing in a solid directing background to this film. I think it ended up doing well for the visuals. And
they did a really good job with using their surroundings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
The sets were just beautiful. Mm-hmm. I want to go visit those places now.
Yeah, now
just because of this film. They really sold it.
Yeah, now I'm like, now I want to go see all of these. I just want to go to these London towns or wherever they are and just go walk through the cobblestone streets. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to do that now.
It was very beautiful. Mm-hmm. They did a great job with showing the scenery with all of it. Does the film work? Does the film work for you, Dominic?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As you can probably tell, I love this movie. I love it when a film has another purpose to it rather than just telling the story. It really hit home to me, and this film had great characters, as we talked about, and the story did flow really well. It didn't lag on either. It was perfect, right on point. Runtime, characters were great, so it was great. Themes were there. I loved all of it.
Yeah, before I go into does the film work for me, I do have to agree with the lagging. I'm a person that if it starts lagging, I start looking at my watch, seeing what time it is, how long things have passed. But this film, I did not. I did not look at my phone to see what time it was. Only, I think, at the part where it gets to the peak. And usually I know when the peak is, so I look at my phone to see, how long did it take to get to the peak? But not because I'm wondering, when is this film going to end? I did not think that in this film. So the film did work for me. I think it worked enough for people to sit through it and enjoy what the story has to offer. I'm still not in love with the kids ruling the world. movies, but this slightly did change my mind towards these types of films because kids are the future. Honestly, like, I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker here, but the kids do have a big say in what happens in the future. And I thought this film did a pretty decent job with showing that without straight up saying, kids are going to change the world. No, they had to fight through it and realize for themselves that they could do it. This movie surprised me based on what I thought going into the film, especially seeing the trailer. It didn't sell it for me. I definitely had to have Dominic say, come on, let's see the film. I think you're going to like it. Because I do like sorcery. I do like King Arthur. And it didn't disappoint. I thought this was just going to be a kid film, but it ended up being much more than that. I do, like I said, like the underlying themes, and it touched my heart a little. I think that Serkis did a really good job playing Alexander. And like I said, Angus as Merlin was one of my favorite things. And it got me through the film to laugh and to also be shocked and sad for the characters.
Now, I'll agree about the marketing piece that when I saw the first trailer, that I was like, I'm not sure that this movie is very interesting to me. I'm probably not going to see it. And then I saw the second trailer, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I saw the TV spots, and then I just got more and more interested the more I watched it. I'm like, you know what? This actually looks like it's going to be really fun. Let me go see it. And it ended up hitting for me.
So now comes to the part of our ratings. So if you haven't listened to our other podcasts, we're going to run through it real fast with you. So we have a 4-tier rating system. We have, if it's a really good film, run to the theater now, go see it. Then we have see it before it leaves theaters, which means you don't need to see it opening weekend, but we do suggest seeing it before it leaves theaters.
Yeah, and then we have wait for streaming, which it's probably not worth spending that extra money to see it within the theater. Just wait until it's on a streaming service so you can just stream it at your house. You should probably check it out at some point. And then finally, we have skip it, which means it's just forgettable film. You shouldn't even waste your time. For me, I love this film. Run to the theater now. It's great. Go see it. You must see it right away. It's absolutely fantastic.
Now, that's Dominic's thought on it, but mine is, it's a good film, but I'd wait for streaming.
What? Are we going to have a fight?
Well, no, because I think that it's not good enough to go see it in theaters. If you just want to snuggle on the couch, get some popcorn from the microwave, pop the movie in, or put it on streaming, watch it with the family, watch it with friends, whatever, I'd say wait for streaming.
But you can say that about any film.
You can, but I think that I think that you don't need to run out to the theater right now. That's my personal thought.
I could watch Avengers: Infinity War on my couch, eating my microwave popcorn with my family.
I know you could watch anything doing that, but I think that this film doesn't necessarily need to be watched in the big screen. It could have been a Netflix film for me, and I would have been fine.
I'll respectfully disagree. But
I do think it's a really good film, though. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that me saying wait for streaming says it's a bad film, because I think it's a really good film. But personally, if I could, I would wait for streaming.
We need to support good cinema.
I do support good cinema.
When it's good movies, we need to get out and support it.
Then go buy it, then. It's the price of a ticket, no?
Well, what, on Blu-ray you're talking about?
If you buy it on Blu-ray or streaming or whatever.
I actually might buy it on Blu-ray. I might buy it on Blu-ray.
So we have our different thoughts on it, and you go see it. Tell us for yourself. You could email us at outoftheboxpod@gmail.com. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at outoftheboxpod. It's POD at the end. And if you're wondering what kind of stories stories that came out throughout the week, you could visit our podcast and listen to that on SoundCloud and YouTube, or even read our stories at outoftheboxpod.wixsite.com/blog.
Thank you guys for listening to us today for a review of The Kid Who Would Be King. Stay tuned for more reviews in the coming weeks, and thank you so much. Enjoy your time in the cinemas.